the order my talk is going to go, at the beginning, it will be, third talk of the day, I'm losing my brain. So at the beginning of the talk, I'm going to talk about who I was during high school. And then I'm going to talk about my injury, what happened, how it affected me, and then the end of my talk, next leg of my talk will be my recovery, and then the end of my talk will be the end of my talk is going to be based on my limited experience in psychology and a point that I've always wanted to make and I haven't really figured out how to make it yet. So, alright, so starting off, when I was in high school, this is going to sound like a superhero tale because it basically was. I was awesome. I was super athletic. I used to train with two of the best coaches in the world, like Gia and Cedric, who are the head coaches at Notre Dame, co-head coaches. I would compete in transcontinental and national events. I was also very social. I had a super attractive girlfriend, I had lots of friends, all this stuff. And then the third thing was I was really smart, So how many of you took the PSAT? So I don't know if you remember how you did on it. I did because it was right before my injury. But I scored in the 97th percentile. So I'm in national merit semi-finals, whatever it's called, all that stuff. On the morning of December 5th, 2012, I walked down the hallway, was waiting for the shower to warm up. My mom was walking outside the bathroom, and she doesn't like sharing this part of the story, but I called for her to come in. She said, "You're a 17-year-old boy. I don't want to come in the bathroom." I was like, all right. I asked her to come in, and I was lying on the ground, holding my head. And she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "It felt like 12 grown men were kicking in my head." And very strange high school teenager thing to say. I then seize and get really into it. So I went to Methodist Hospital in town, which is home of Gooden Campbell, which is home of Dr. Thomas Leipzig, likely the best neurosurgeon ever. Super weird. Indiana, yeah, are you kidding me? We're the best. So weird. I then went to the RIC in Chicago, now Shirley Ryan, which is the #1 rehab clinic in the country, therefore the world, in America. So believe in that. So over and over again, just super out. Chicago's an hour and a half from my doorstep. Indianapolis, are you kidding me? Indianapolis is great, but not the best in the world. But they were. And my recovery, it was an 8-year-long of inconsistent therapy, and that's been about 11 years since my injury. And I'm probably gonna go back to therapy soon in the future. But who knows? It's just kind of it's odd on top of odd. How long I'm in therapy. Most people can't handle that. I can't handle that usually, but whatever. And then the last part of my talk. I'm forgetting I have to talk. I'm sorry, it's the third talk of the day. I'm exhausted. So the last part is, so one of the main things that I came around to throughout my injury and recovery is how odd my life was, and how insanely unusual, and it doesn't fit into these boxes. So in neurology, that was true, and regular therapy, physical OT, and speech, all true. But I was reading about lifespan development on the way out here. I didn't even tell you. So my history in psychology. So I took 2 undergraduate classes of psychology. It was the same course, back-to-back semesters with the same teacher at the same time. It was exactly the same. The reason I took it is the first semester I took it, I got flat out F. It was awful. Not because I didn't know the material, but because I would write a paragraph next to each question about why it was wrong. And she was like, the professor and I were very close, and she brought me into her office, and she said, Matthew, for crying out loud, it's a multiple choice exam. Just mark the right answer and move on. Like, I'm so sick of reading your paragraphs. But the reason why, that was just funny story, that wasn't related, but I feel like lifespan development is like, I was sitting in class this morning where she taught for like half an hour, and there's a lot of similar stuff to that first semester Psych 101 that I took, where it's like, these are definitions, and these are the psychologists who wrote this research and did this research. Wow. And I think that's all great, but all of you guys, unless you become like a PhD tenured professor, I think that being a psychologist in almost any field, correct me if I'm wrong, is about truly understanding that people are people. So, what I mean by that, a brain injury is inherently individual, because I guarantee you, if any of you have a family member or a friend that had a brain injury, it's not the same as anyone else. Like, it's like less frequent than a lightning striking twice. That you'd have people have the same brain injury, because it never happens. And I think that in that way, it also, when you're being like a therapist or psychologist to a troubled teen or something, it's good to know these statistics and learn this stuff, but I think you really have to view each individual person as an individual person. So that was just my spiel, because I was reading about lifespan development on the bus yesterday. But so, as I said at the beginning of class, like, I am open to any and all questions. So if you guys want to ask about like what medications I'm on, I'll walk you through it. I'll tell you everyone. But I'm sure you have other questions, so go ahead.
So you mentioned how you like write paragraphs next to the questions and everything. Is that something that you think happened like because of the brain thing, or was that something that you did also like in high school for?
It wasn't to help me. It was literally to tell the teacher she was wrong. So what actually happened? So right before I took this class, I spent the summer living in Villa, Peru, and I came back very upset with the world and very like nothing's matter. So I come to this class, and I think I got failed like every class except for one lab that semester. It was so bad. I got put on academic probation and everything because I was just so upset with the world. But the reason I failed her class was because she would teach us these things. I wouldn't agree. I'd bring it up in class. I was told to stop. So I was like, I'm going to write it on their test. And I wrote it on their test. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. And that probably drove her nuts. She was like, what, for crying out loud, it's like 101, stop it. But yeah, it wasn't because of the injury at all.
Well, and I think when we were talking about this before class, it was more of like, in psychology, we typically look at like overall groups, right? And we don't talk about individual differences as much. And I think that was kind of what you were trying to say is like, okay, maybe this is like the overall trajectory of something, but like there are individual factors and things that might contribute to make this trajectory look different for somebody else.
Yeah. That's a nice way of putting it. I was the worst. Yeah, I totally agree. Yes, ma'am?
Did they find out like what exactly caused?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I said, their talk, I skipped over that part. So the first and second vertebrae at birth, they fuse. And that's usually it. Very, very rarely, they don't fuse. It's called os odontoideum. Super rare, never happens. But when it does happen, even more rarely, those people will have some sort of traumatic accident, be that a car accident or a ski accident, what have you. And that loose vertebrae will sever one of the 4 arteries that go up to your brain. That causes massive bleed, results in diffuse stroke, seizures, what have you. I did not have a traumatic brain injury. I had a non-traumatic brain injury. So any of you heard TBI? It was NTBI, so a non-traumatic brain injury. I Googled because I didn't know what to ask, but it generally happens because of a drug overdose. I had no drugs in my system. I'd never taken drugs. It was weird. So the surgeon told my mom while I was in the hospital that I either turned my head wrong or I sneezed. So now the cause, like the malformed vertebrae, has a 4 of 5 death rate on the way to hospital. So it's an 80% kill rate before they even get to the hospital. So it's like, what the heck? And after that, it's just accepted that everyone dies. And so speaking of that, so have any of you watched the movie The Creator? Just came out recently. Do you like it?
I love that.
All right. My blow, you won't like this one, but so I watched it. It was a very interesting movie. All right, so the overarching premise of the movie is that AI is like good, right? And I think that's an interesting idea. What I really didn't like about the movie was there was a moment of strength when the character physically pulls the plug on his wife. And I was like, okay, no, there's no plug. Sorry. I was very upset when I watched this movie. I did not mean to say that. I'm sorry. I said it wrong. I'm so sorry. But also, I think genuine strength would be my mom. My mom slept by my bedside in an armchair for 5 months with doctors and nurses and surgeons telling her to pull the plug. And you gotta either pull the plug or seek out long-term life benefits, which my mom actually traded away. But in order to get me the insurance needed to go to the RC, she traded away long-term life benefits. So the RC now Shirley Ryan is a rehab clinic in Chicago, and it's really expensive. So she traded away my long-term life benefits, which is like nursing home stuff. So if I hadn't survived and gotten better, it would have been a really poor idea. But she did that, which is baffling. I think that is genuine strength. I will admit, so my dad had a coworker, sort of mid-50s, and he had ALS. And he was flatlined, like no brain activity for like 2 weeks. And his family, so his 2 young kids and his wife, had to make the absurdly hard decision to pull the plug. And I know them, I love them. I was like, I don't know, that's really hard. But at the same time as I view that as strength, I also view being willing to sit by their bedside and wait for them to get better as strength. And granted, his name is Mike. Between me and him, he had no brain activity. I did. So that is probably encouraging to my mom. But she did have, I asked her, you're all aware of Methodist and Goodman Campbell. So Dr. Thomas Leipzig was there. He retired. Best neurosurgeon probably ever. He kept telling my mom to pull the plug. She was like, screw you don't know what you're talking about. And so many various people have different understandings of what my mom says. And my grandmother thinks that my mom told him there's like next to no chance that you don't know, my God. Because my grandmother, Southern Methodist woman, whatever. I have an old fencing friend who is like, I thought your mom said F off to him. Seriously doubt that. I really doubt that. I can't imagine my mom saying that to any surgeon, let alone the best surgeon ever. just doing things. But I do think that my mom refused his advice to just let me die, not do these ridiculously expensive surgeries. Like, so yeah, I hope that answered your question. Your question, sorry. Yeah.
What sports did you play in high school?
So, that I did.
You didn't say fencing.
Okay, I'm sorry. Fencing. I was super good at fencing. I have friends, either training or on the Olympic team right now. People I used to compete with, people I used to beat. I trained with their names are Gia Kvardaskalia, someone like that is Georgian, and Cedric Luswo, who's from France, probably the two best coaches in the country. And I trained with them because I live like 2 miles from Notre Dame. So they're both Notre Dame coaches, and I totally violated all NCAA laws and trained with the Notre Dame team for a long time. So I can say that now because it was a long time ago. I'm 28 and I don't care. Anyone else? Andrew? Yes, ma'am.
What did schooling look like for you after your accident and like during your treatment?
Okay, so I'll start with during. I used to go to school with this therapist, and I liked her. She was really nice. She read me funny books. I enjoyed it. Apparently, no one liked her, and she was like warm. She was so nice. I loved her. And that was while I was in therapy. But then after, I went back to school for one period a day of ceramics class for the second semester of my junior year, like the last 2 months of school, last month probably. And then I went back to that same high school and was put in the junior classes that I'd already completed half of. So that was like really, I didn't like that. After that, I had to do online high school because I didn't want to go back to high school when all my classmates were gone. And then I went to Creighton University, where I love you guys. So, but I went there, and I graduated high school in 5 years. I graduated college in 4 years, so it's pretty weird. But I love telling people that. And then post college, I haven't done like anything. Well, I've done a lot, but nothing school related. I worked at a homeless shelter for 2 years. I'm a junior executive at Inter Technologies Corporation right now, and I do this, and also write books. Sorry, you put your hand up first. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything from before your accident that you wish you could, or like you can't do that you wish you could?
Yeah, a lot. So if you ever get the chance to read my book, I can no longer ice skate for the life of me, but I also arguably can't snow ski or water ski. But relearning how to walk, talk, swallow, breathe, like all that stuff was so hard. And clearly my voice is still okay. It's not amazing. The hardest thing for me to lose though was the ability to fence. I love fencing. It's so much fun, and I used to be so competitive at it. And I told you I have friends training for the Olympics, and I used to be able to beat all of them like handily. So I'm like, this should be me, but I love it. It's so much fun. I don't care. I went to a tournament with a couple of them, and they were all very into it. So it was like, but I was losing like horribly. And I would like laugh and take off my mask and have a good time. And they were, what's wrong with you? Like, you realize you're losing. I don't care. Like, this is freaking awesome, guys. Like, which it's funny because, you know, I have a friend who's been training at the Colorado Olympic Training Center for about a year. And he just accepted a job coaching at Duke. I haven't spoken to him about it, but I assume he's done training for the Olympics, and I used to be able to beat that kid handily. swear to God. I've been in classes with him where I inform all of the students that he's garbage. It's god awful. So, all right, hope that answered your question. All right, anyone else? Yeah, yes.
I was gonna ask what you went to college for, because I know you said you took some psych classes, but I didn't know if that was for what you were graduating with.
No.
or-
It was, I took two because it was the same course I needed to get rid of the F. I majored in health administration and theology, which are like two vastly different fields. So I was talking earlier about this. So theology is very idealistic. You know, the Bible calls you to act in a certain way, or theologians, or what have you. It's all about what you should be doing. Health administration, on the other hand, is so realistic. It's just, here's the law, here's the statistic, do what you will with it. And so if I'd taken either of those on their own, I would have lost my mind. But I took both of them, so it was like a good balance of the two. All right, yes.
You said you go to therapy inconsistently, like on and off for the last 8 years. Why is that, and what does your therapy look like?
Okay, so it's because I hate therapy. Oh, I'm sorry, no, it's also, so how many of you guys have, someone who's gone through any medical ailment where they've had to go back to therapy? Yeah? So most of you, I'm sure if you ask them, they wouldn't say that they loved therapy. I've never met anyone saying they loved therapy. I met a lot of people going through therapy. I never loved it. What's the difference between me and most people is I have parents like yelling at me to do this stuff all the time. And that combined with the fact that I look at the alternatives to not doing therapy like right now, and I've always been terrified of the alternative. What was the second part of your question?
Oh, I was just saying, what does your therapy look like?
Oh, I work out. Always. No, I don't that much anymore. But yeah, so in college, I went through about a 4-year phase of always wanting to lift weights. And I feel like most guys in college go through that, like look in the mirror, oh look at me, and I went through that for years, and it was funny because by lifting weights and having like a rock solid core that I could clench onto, my balance got so much better. So I would go back to therapy over breaks. I would just blow all the stress out of the water, and it's like, oh, I'm done. I don't need to do therapy anymore. And recently I started a podcast, and that really helped my speech therapy more than anything else I've done. But yeah, so that's what it looks like today. Yeah.
Kind of following up on Stephanie's question, can you talk a little bit about the process of learning how to walk again and talk again, which are things that we've talked about in terms of infancy and early childhood, but what the process is like relearning those things as an adolescent?
Yeah. So, well, I'm an adolescent, 17, pretty old. But, so when I was 17, my surgeon told my mom that I basically pushed a reset button on my brain. So, when, with therapists and stuff, I learned that it is significantly more difficult for a grown-up to relearn how to walk and talk and everything than it is for a newborn baby. Because there are a couple of reasons, but the one that stuck with me is adults have so much other stuff that they want to think about. Whereas a newborn baby, walk to me, that's all they're thinking about. Or food, probably. But, so it was very frustrating having to relearn that stuff because it was so rudimentary. And I didn't mention this earlier, but so when I was at therapy in Chicago, they had a very broad tightrope that they wanted me to walk on. and I was trying to like walk tandem on it. I couldn't do it. Well, just keep trying. And so I got back on it, and I did fencing. And I walked across the parkway back and forth, and what the heck? What are you doing? That's not how you're walking. My mom was like, he's fencing. So I do think there was probably a level, because obviously I walked more than I fenced, but I love fencing. So there's like an enjoyment element in there too that I didn't think of until now. But yeah. Anyone else? Come on. Yes.
What did your like support system kind of look like when you were going through all of this? Like, were you still able to like talk to your friends? Did they like come visit you in Chicago or things like that?
When I was in Chicago, yes. When I was in Indianapolis, yes. So my friends specifically reacted the same way any high schooler would. When I was at Methodist, they said that I have the record for the most number of visitors of like any patient ever, and my entire walls were filled with orange letters, which is my favorite color, and Batman stuff and like everything. Because my friends were high schoolers, their friend, basically dies and they don't know what to do, so they write letters and they come visit and everything. Afterwards, it really stinks. How many of you guys had good experience in high school? I think it was like the last class of this morning I asked that question. I really wanted someone to raise their hands and go, wow! But I can't do that. I also didn't have a great experience in high school because high schoolers, old adage that there's high schoolers are mean. It's definitely true. They're the worst. I was the worst too, but my friends, they kind of turned their backs on me. And I've been to many psychologists since I've talking about this, and it's like I died that day, which sucks, but it's kind of true. And I just went to a high school classmate's wedding like 2 weeks ago, and that was awesome. But I haven't seen them in probably 8 years. It's been a while, so yeah. Hopefully that answered the question. Yes.
What happened to your super hot girlfriend?
The same thing everybody happens when they have a super hot high school girlfriend.
Not quite. You want to know? I don't know if you may want to plug yours with this, but she, that's like, you guys are going to be horrified. So while I was in the coma, we actually broke up like a week before my accident. But she came to my hospital and told everyone she was my girlfriend. My mom used to say, I'm not his girlfriend. I don't like you. And she didn't ever say that. She was like, whatever. It's like, there's so much else going on. Like, I'm not dealing with this. I come out of coma, and the first person I see is my nurse, my RN, Justine. And I said, I was like, I asked what was going on, and we were talking, and she told me that my girlfriend showed up yesterday. My mom shoots up. Oh, shoot. Where's my girlfriend? Oh, you don't remember her. Oh, they gotta pick this up. It's Emily. Oh, I didn't know I was still dating him. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't have remembered that. My mom's sitting there like, what do I say? Like, I don't want to like break his heart. He just came out of a coma. Oh, he is bad. So what I'm telling you, plug your, she slept with my best friend while I did that. So, like, semi cheated on me while I was in a coma. Like, that's like really screwed up. I'm not friends with them anymore. Yeah, no, it's really bad. And, I mean, it's like long term, like, no, not really. I don't care. But, I haven't dated since then. No, so. But you asked, so. Yes. You. Yeah.
After like losing parts of your identity, like fencing and probably different like social groups and everything, what was the process of like regaining, parts of your life back, or like, refinding yourself again, I guess?
Very long. And it really drained me. Like I've been to lots of like psychologists, like real doctors, like trying to analyze this stuff, and it was really hard. Like you no doubt notice, I'm a Midwesterner. I don't know a stranger, and that kind of tips in my favor because I make friends at like bars, just like sitting down and talking to them, so I would say that took a long time to like come around to, and it took like I would actually argue the hardest year was that year post high school. I had to stay home because I knew no one, and I didn't want to hang out with my parents because I was 18, like angry. Any 18-year-olds in here? No. All right, good. I was an angry 18-year-old. But yeah, you know, it was tough for sure. So, yeah, yes.
Do you have any memories of when you first woke up and opened your eyes, or like was that not as significant, or?
Yes. All right. So, comatose is a very broad definition. It ranges from a catatonic state to not walking to not talking, and for me, what I define the coma as, at the end of the coma, is when I accepted that this was reality and not a dream, which I was terrified of. I was like, I'm dreaming, partially due to Inception, because I came out like a month before my injury, and I was like, everything's a dream. Leonardo DiCaprio. Sorry. But yeah, like earlier on, I said my first word. I said to Vicky, my speech therapist, so she gave me a popsicle, and every time I made an E noise without any noise, I could lick the popsicle. And she turned around, and I took a huge chunk out of the popsicle. She was like, "What's wrong? Half the popsicles go. Where'd that go?" And I said, "I don't know. You spoke," and she didn't even care that I did a popsicle. But that was like the first time I spoke. The first time I opened my eyes, like within a day, because I was talking to my dad. He was like, "How early do you remember?" And he said, "I can remember you speaking to my doctor about whether to send me to Atlanta, Cincinnati, or Chicago." And he was like, "That was the day of your injury." So I can remember back to the day of my injury, and that's why comatose is so weird. Similar to that argument I was saying about people are all individual people, like comas are individual. It's so weird. All right.
So you said that you heard stuff from the first day. So do you remember like hearing stuff throughout the entire time you were in the coma?
Yeah, the coma sucked for me because I'll walk you through my thought of the coma. For 2 weeks, I genuinely believed that I was in hell because I was thinking eternal suffering. And what is neurologically acceptable is when someone uses that like razor right hand and they don't do it. It's neurologically acceptable to pinch them. So I had like massive bruises all over because people were pinching me all the time. So I thought, I'm in hell. And Butler is a private school. Are you a Catholic school? No. All right. I'm just going to tell you guys this. So I grew up Catholic, and I prayed and prayed and prayed to the Catholic God, trying to escape this nightmare that I was in. I was like, I don't know where I was screwed up. Just let me go into heaven. And I never got an answer. So I prayed to every other conceivable God I could possibly think of. You know, there was no edge. No one ever answered, which was just terrible to me. The only answer that I got was actually a reaction to the anesthetic. The doctor said, I saw a pink elephant god. And a pink dream god. It was a giant elephant. It was so weird. post-injury, 2 years after, so I'd gone through 2 years of I'm an atheist. No God would cause me to go through this pain, would make me suffer the way they did, blah, blah, blah. And over again, I met medical professionals who would come to one faith or the other, you know, like Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, some weird yoga religion, Christianity. And the final one was my neurosurgeon. And he walked into my room and was talking to my mom, and he looked at these two charts and goes, "These aren't your scans," and he just like, this is weird. Like, I don't know what's going on. He comes back and he's all sweaty and disheveled, and he shows me the two pictures and he goes, "So this one is the day of your injury. I sealed off the right vertebral artery, which is an irreversible surgery." I was like, okay, he's like, "In this one, blood is flowing through the artery." Okay? He looks at my mom and he goes, "Higher power." Like, it's an atheist, like, super surgeon. Like, he's amazing. He was like, no, this is dumb. Like, I've been a neurosurgeon for 4 years. And keep in mind, this is Thomas Leipzig from your town, best neurosurgeon ever. I don't know, I guess, too. And so I've come very strongly to the idea, you know, I don't have any earthly clue who God is, but I know there is a higher power out there. There's someone who helped me out, because I couldn't have done this on my own, as awesome as I was. But yeah, so I avoid that topic at public schools because it's like religious, and I don't know if it's like, but you're all adults, so say what I want to. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry. I go on for like hours. Someone was, yes.
Yeah, do you, like, after you got out of your coma, did you have any trouble, like, remembering things from your past, other than, like, I could get a girlfriend, I guess?
Well, I had a girlfriend that I didn't have. Yeah, so, yes. Originally, when I had the coma, I had no short-term memory. Because, like, so I couldn't remember dinner the night before. I couldn't remember words that were just said to me. You know, it was really awful. What I discovered about memory over the course of 11 years is that when I'm going to rewrite psychology books on memory because of this sake, but when I increased my short-term memory, my long-term memory got crazy good. You know, like, I can remember classes from college. I can remember football games from 2004 or 2005, actually. And I had a good NE 2004. Just like absolutely baffling, like, memory. And the reason I say I like rewrote psychology books is I've never read that like anywhere. The increasing short-term memory, increases long-term memory, but like it did. I actually, it's called Neuropsych Eval, so it's given by psychologists. Have you seen this?
I don't give them, but I know of them.
You know of it, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to know something crazy?
Mm-hmm.
I perfected that test. I've taken it so many times that I can literally do it perfectly to this day. My grandfather, they thought he had Alzheimer's. I was like, no one in our family has Alzheimer's. Why do you think you have Alzheimer's? Oh, my ribs told me I have it. No. So I told him all of the answers before he went in. So he scored perfectly on it. They were like, we don't think you have Alzheimer's. I'm like, no, he doesn't. It was so funny, and I got a lot of trouble for that. But now they can't do it. He knows them. You know, it's the same test every time you go in. And, well, it was the last time I took it 4 or 5 times. And the last time that I took it, I was doing it, and I got every single question right. And he was like, I can't tell if you're a genius or if you're cheating or what. And I was like, I've taken this a few times. He was like, you're not supposed to take this more than once. Well, I have. And he was like, we're done. We're not doing this. It was really funny. he was so upset. He was like, what's the point of my job if you should know these things? So, anyone else? I'm loving this. Go for it.
What did like memory therapy look like for you? Like, was there like a process that you had to go through to like help your short-term memory?
So, memory therapy for me was entirely on my own. I never went to like a professional therapist, but what I did do that was professional was, have you guys ever heard of lumosity? So if you play that like for 3 hours every day, your memory will become awesome. It's like a guy, I still get emails from Lumosity about me coming to compete because I'm hands down the best person in the country. Like, because I go to Starbucks at Creighton and just play for like 3 hours every morning. They always ask me to buy coffee. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna play my game. Okay. But it's funny. Anyways, yes.
So do you find yourself having to remind yourself how to do certain things? Like, because you had to go through like speech therapy, different therapies so much later in life, do you find yourself having to consciously remind yourself to like, this is how I need to chew, or like this is how I need to do this or that?
Yeah, definitely. So minor stuff like chew, set, yeah. It's in the past since COVID struck, I've been back to therapy. So like 2019, 2020, right? And I'm like forgetting how to stand. Like, and it's actually like a really good conversation piece. I worked at a homeless shelter for 2 years, and I was like serving food, and I was just standing there talking to a guest. And I like placed one on the table. What the heck? I'm sorry, man. I forget how to stand sometimes. What's that? I told him, and there was another guy. So I told him like the long version of my story because I don't have anywhere to go, and there was this guy sitting there. I didn't know. I still don't know. But the next day, he came up to me and he told me he needed to use the bathroom. And he recited back to me my story because I happened to him. I was like, what the hell? It's happened twice. How'd you know? Like, it's super crazy. Like, he was like naming surgeons and like locations. I was like, there's no chance. Like, it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to like ask him his name and call him and be like, did he ever come through your hospital? Anyone else? Yeah.
Is there a chance of you're like getting the similar injury happening to you again because your vertebrae isn't is it fused? Like,
It is fused.
Okay.
So no, I have. So, couple things. So, no greater risk than anyone else of ever having a stroke again. So, as a result, I read somewhere that creatine increases your risk of a stroke. I'm not gonna take it. No chance. Been there, done that. I'm done. But also, Dr. Rogers, and he's at Methodist. I don't know which way it is, somewhere in Indianapolis. He told me that if a rocket ship were to hit me, my body would be disintegrated, but his fusion would be intact. I was like, okay. And so, I'm like, actually, I don't know if this is true, so don't like take notes on this, but I have a really thick skull. So I like hit my head all the time on really hard things, and it's fine. Like I fell a week ago in the bathroom and just like smashed my head in the wall. That hurt. That was fine. I fell off of a 30-foot cliff in Passaic in Washington, and I hit my head on a tree as I was falling down. I was like, save me. And they were like, oh, you're concussed. Oh, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Like, so I just have like, what? It's like Cro-Magnons, like when they had the really thick skulls before humans. Like, that's me. I just did that 23andMe test. I'm waiting to get my stuff back. Like, you're Homo sapien. That's what they're calling. I'm ready to get that in my, like, you're like 70% Homo sapien. This is unusual. Like, yep, I am. Anyone else?
Any last question?
Do you get nervous every time you sneeze? Because that's like could have caused it the first time.
Ooh, very good question. No, I've never gotten, I mean, not, but, I mean, holy cow. You just like threw my life for I'm doing that more, but, no, because, so, also might be controversial, but I don't want to live my life in fear of like things happening. I do seemingly stupid stuff like going like really dangerous hikes, going scuba diving. I tried next week. I tried to go diving with sharks in Hawaii, and no one wants to go with me, so I probably won't go. It's just so much money has been spent saving my life. So if I don't use, I'm kind of like spitting in everyone's face who like saved my life. Like holy cow! Like so I just keep on doing stupid stuff because it's fun.
Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much for
so
being
much fun.
here.
Thank you for asking questions. I love it.
And in order to get engagement credit for today, send me a quick email or grab a scrap piece of paper and write down one connection that you see to Matthew's story connecting to this class. You don't have to do it right this second. Just don't forget so you can get engagement credit for today. But thank you all for being here. Thank you, Matthew, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.